see, I have finished tracing my frog with the brush tool using the smoothing effect and the hard round pressure opacity brush. There are other ways to trace. So next we're going to learn how to trace with the pen tool. So what you're going to do is just turn off your first trace layer. So we're back to where we started with just the background layer. And we're going to then make a new trace, call it trace 2. And if you look over at the toolbar, you're going to see what looks like an old-fashioned fountain pen tip. If you right-click on your pen that you're holding in your hand, so we're hovering and clicking the bottom button on our Wacom pen, you're going to see all of these different pen options. We are going to start with the curvature pen, but for the pen tool to work, you need to first come to your brush and you need to decide what size your lines need to be. So I'm generally seeing that my brush set at 57 is a good size for this tracing. And you want to make sure your brush is set to black and it's also on the right kind of brush. Remember, hard round pressure size. If you lose that brush, call me over so I can reset it for you. So now that I know my brush is set up, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start tracing. And I might have to adjust the size of the brush depending on what I'm tracing. So the pen tool looks like this it changes the mouse to this little pen icon. And we're going to be using the Curvature Pen Tool. Okay, so you're going to click on Curvature Pen Tool. And you can use other pen tools and we'll go over those, but right now, because this is a curved line, I'm going to use the curved pen tool. So I've made this little blue dot and I want to decide where does the curve of my line end and make another dot. But now it connects the dots and you can see I can make another point. Okay, so we call these little dots points, and I'm going to put that point in the center, and now you can see my pen has changed. So I have this little black arrow, and that means I can just push this line up there. So now I have this line made. Because this line is a single line and not a shape, I can go ahead now. I'm going to press the bottom button on my Wacom pen. So I'm hovering and pressing. And I'm going to select stroke path. I want to make sure I'm on brush, and I'm going to simulate pressure. That's going to allow my brush to go from thick to thin. I'm going to hit OK. And if it looks good, not too wide, then I'm going to hover and hit delete path. You want to make sure you're deleting your paths always. Is that a little wide? Maybe. So if it's too wide or too thin, you're going to come back in your history and click back on your brush. I'm going to turn this down to about 41. I'm going to come back to my pen tool. I'm going to hover and click, hit stroke path, hit OK. That looks better. Delete path. Okay. And now I'm going to trace this line. Remember, you're going around the curves and then you're dragging that little dot with your pen, your Wacom pen. And the computer's really smart, so as it goes, it's going to start doing the curves for you as it starts reading the image. Again, I'm going to click, stroke path, hit OK, delete path. And I would then need to decide, should I do this inner line right now or save those details for the end? I think I'm going to come here. Again, I'm going to create that straight line. Make your point in the middle and drag it with your Wacom pen. Now I'm not done, so I'm going to come over here, make another point, and then drag it to fit on that line. Then I'm going to hover, click that bottom button, stroke path, hit OK, delete path. I like the thickness here. I don't think I need to change the line here. I am going to change the thickness of the line for this inner part. Remember, we don't want our lines to crowd. So now I'm going to come here. I'm going to do this eye. Come down here. I'm going to stroke path. Hit OK. Delete path. And these lines look smaller, So now I'm going to come up to my brush. I'm going to start turning this down a little bit. I'm going to then come back to my curvature pen. And I'm going to see, oops, what if this is going to work. I just don't want super thick lines next to each other. Remember, we want to pay attention to thickness and thinness of the lines. I accidentally deleted that, so I'll just redo it. We want to get our lines on the lines. What's easier about the pen tool is it does give you those smooth lines, but it takes longer. So you get really great line work for an illustration in this style, but it's going to take you a little more time to do it. So I'm going to stop there. Remember, the key parts is to keep changing the width of your brush. You can always check, like, is this a good size for that line? That looks like a pretty good size. It might be better for this line though, right? So now I'm going to come here, decide, ooh, that looks too pointy. I'm going to adjust. And this takes a while to get used to the, not just the steps, but the pulling and pushing the lines and the accuracy of that. So just like we did with the brush tool, it's going to be frustrating at first. You might do a couple versions, see which one is the best. We want to really work these skills because, like I said, in the style we're doing for this rabbit illustration, line work is key. All right, guys, so I hope this makes sense. And after you finish your tracing with the brush, you will then trace with the pen tool so that you'll have two versions of the frog traced.